Hello, everyone, and welcome to Connect the Work, where we make career conversations normal. I'm here today
to talk about our third benchmark today. Today's benchmark is family in career connections. So today we're going to have my family here, and we're going to have a career conversation live with you guys. Okay, we're here with my dad. Hi, Dad.
Hi.
Do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. My name is David Robles. My students call me Mr. Robles. I work as a resource specialist teacher at the Long Beach Unified School District. But before I did that, this is my second career. I was an elementary school teacher for a year, and then I took kind of a detour and I did nonprofit executive management for 20 years. And then I kind of decided I need to do something else. So I went to culinary school, got a culinary degree, you know that.
Yes.
Your lunches reflect that.
Yes.
And then I went back to education. So I've kind of taken a little break from education, did what I did for 20 years, and then I'm back into education. I love it. But I do want to stress that growing up, education wasn't something that I was thinking about because I had a hard time in the public school system. I did not like high school. I wasn't a good student. I think my GPA was 2 point something, when I graduated. Only because education wasn't necessarily something that my family championed. My parents are from Mexico. I'm first generation Mexican American. And my dad worked. My mom stayed home, so it was a traditional Mexican family. Spanish was my first language. I learned Spanish first, and then I learned English in kindergarten. And education wasn't really stressed. It was like, you're going to get a job, you're going to provide for your family. So that's kind of what was expected of us in some way, and that's kind of what the trajectory of my life was. Even after graduating high school, I did go to a junior college, and I went for 3 years, and then I dropped out. And at that point, I didn't know what to do. I had a full-time job. I was actually working 2 jobs, thinking this was my life. This was my life. And it wasn't until I got a phone call to my parents' house that the Spanish teacher that I was taking, called my house and said, "Hey, I don't know why you dropped out, and what can I do to get you back?" And at that point, that was the first time a teacher, now a professor in college, actually saw me. I felt like I was seen at that moment, like somebody really cared. They said, "Hey, what can I do to get you back? What can I do to make sure that you are part of my classroom because I see leadership potential in you?" No one had ever done that. Wow. Nobody had ever done that. And that was the first time where I was like, oh, maybe education or maybe getting a degree is something that I can actually accomplish. So she said, I'll reinstate you into the class. Just come back, please. So I came back. That was the only class I came back to because I felt safe in that class. Safety in classrooms and being safe and feeling safe to belong, all that matters.
Yeah.
So she made me feel that. So I came back and I finished that class for that semester. And then I took a full load the next semester. And then I transferred to the university where I got my bachelor's degree from. And that led into education. And then I took a detour, got a master's, got a culinary degree, and here we are today. I'm back in education. I'm loving it, serving my students in every way possible that I can, and just making sure that I'm a positive role model for them, because I wish I had that in high school, because I think that would have changed a lot of my trajectory. I'm proud of what I am now. I'm proud of you and being able to, see you do your thing.
Thank you.
But I think that's why we stressed education with you, because of the possibilities for you that I did not have.
Oh, I see.
So I think the way that I view education, it's a door, it's a window, it's an opportunity for you to advance, and that's why I think Mommy and I are so adamant about making sure that you have an education, and that you pursue an education, and that you have all the opportunities that you want. Because I feel like there are things that I didn't have that I have that my parents don't have or didn't have. But now I see that you have opportunities that I didn't have, so I want you to get those opportunities as much as you can, and I don't want there to be barriers. So we're really supportive of you getting your education because we see what is available to you.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that until a professor allowed me to see that. And sometimes, I get emotional about it because that did change my life. It did change my life in big ways because, I didn't see education like I see it now. So you're welcome.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I want to ask, because you said English wasn't your first language. How did that work into your education? Like, how did it maybe put up obstacles? How did it, even with communication from the school to your parents, how did that all work?
Well, I think it was, we're talking in the 80s, where education wasn't as advanced as it is now. I'm privileged to work in a district that is incredibly just passionate about reaching all families, and communicating in all languages so that they're able to understand the educational system in America and that they're able to benefit from it. I didn't see that. I didn't have that. It was always everything that was sent home was just in English. It wasn't translated into Spanish. And, as a English language learner, I often felt like there was a barrier for me. Like, I always felt sometimes that there was an inability to speak correctly or an inability to comprehend what was being said. So in some ways I felt embarrassed. I didn't feel as comfortable. I always knew, that there was a language barrier because I didn't understand a lot of the words. I didn't understand a lot of the language or the curriculum or the literature that was being written because I honestly didn't connect with it. I didn't see myself in the literature.
Yeah.
I didn't see myself represented. It was always a certain color. It was only a certain, a certain race. It was only a certain way that it was, being taught that I just didn't connect or I didn't see. So I felt like I had to suppress a lot of my culture in order to learn.
Wow.
So, but I love how I've seen the progress of education and how it's become what it is today in regards to reaching, all students in a way that is effective in their ability to succeed. So, I think for me, even taking things home, or I was afraid of the school calling my house, because my parents, my mom didn't really understand the language. So there was going to be a barrier and there's going to be information that wasn't going to be communicated correctly. And, I would be on my best behavior so that my teachers wouldn't call home.
Wow.
Interesting. So it was kind of like that experience, and as I grew up a little as I grew and I matriculated through the school grades and the school years, I just didn't feel like I was a good student. I just didn't. And I don't know if that was the teachers doing or maybe it was just the system. I just didn't feel like I was a scholar.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until college where somebody saw me and said, you have potential. And that's where I was like, okay, I needed that in order to wake up. But I think if and when somebody, I'm going to get emotional.
It's okay.
We're an emotional family. We cry about everything.
We do.
But I think it just takes somebody, and I love when teachers really do that with students early, and as a parent that didn't get that, or as a student, as an individual who didn't get that as a young student, as a parent, I want to do that for you and for Reese, is make sure that you guys know that you guys are able and you guys are capable, and not that this is anything negative, but I also understand that there's still a lot of gender biases too. So as women, like we need to be intentional and make sure that you guys are encouraged to do whatever you want to do. You know what I mean? And I think that's what Mommy and I have done. We've created an environment where we know that you can and that you will.
Mm.
And we understand what's going on still with gender biases and all that stuff that exists. But we want you to know that that should not stop you. And that should not keep you from becoming an engineer, becoming what you want to be. And I think that was just something in me that was continually just encouraging you to be all that you can be and not have the barriers that I felt I had or that society puts against you. So, am I an activist for education? Yeah. Am I an activist for gender equality? Heck yes. Because I believe education really does open doors for you. And I think will continue to open doors for you. And I think because you have the opportunity, I want to continue to push you in that direction to take advantage of what's before you. Because, not everybody before you had that. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes. You're answering like 50 questions that like I was going to ask, and now they're like already all answered. So it's good. It's good. Do you want to talk about being a mixed family?
Sure.
In education.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Sure. I think I bring to the table some of the disparities that are in maybe a mixed, family where I bring the Mexican American experience. I bring the perspective of somebody who has faced maybe a little bit of racism, but I don't do it in a way that sets me or us back. I do it in a way that's going to move us forward, and I do it in a way that encourages us to really think through, a lens of gender equality. I do think, and I bring to the table the idea of, hey, listen, this exists, this bias exists, so we need to know that so that we are able to face that and educate ourselves on the history of things and where things happened and where things came from and move to a place of moving to the other side of saying we are going to grow from this and we're going to not let this be a barrier for us. So I think that's kind of my role as, in the family as not only your dad, but also a supporter. Because here's the thing, I also think your mother and I are equal in this. I'm not superior. I don't need to sit at the head of the table. Like
that's why we have a circle dining table.
That's why we have a round dining table. So because there's no head of the table, we're all equal, and with that comes challenges too, because we give you a voice, and sometimes your voice is very strong in the decisions that we make. And the Mexican side of me says, "No, I'm the man. I got to make the decisions," because that's how I grew up. That's how my dad, ran the house. And but as somebody who sees it through a different lens, it's kind of like there is conflict in that. But I have to remind myself, like, this is not about me. I'm here to make sure that my kids have more of an opportunity and that they sit at tables and make decisions, and that in our home we're seen as equals. Anyway, so I think that's kind of what I bring to the table. That's kind of what I continue and will continue to do as a support to you, but also understanding our differences, how we were raised, how we view things, how we see things, and there are times where I still see things through a Mexican lens, because that's what I grew up in, the music, the food, everything. But also grateful for the opportunities that I have and will continue to have as I move and continue to grow in the field of education, because like you and like Mommy says, like, we're continually learning. We can't stop learning. We can't stop, continually growing in what we do and what we know, because I don't think that's beneficial for anybody.
Yeah.
So that's one encouragement that I think we continue to give to you, is that continue to learn, Continue to be open, continue to read, continue to research, continue to see and watch, so that you will continue to grow as an individual, so that you don't kind of become stagnant, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that would give you an edge, in your career as somebody who continues to just develop themselves.
Yeah.
To better yourself.
Yeah.
And the world.
Yeah.
What else you got for me?
What do you, like, is there anything you want to specifically bring attention to in maybe your career, in your life, in your family? Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to bring up?
I think when it comes to careers, I think if I were to speak to families when it comes to careers, I think I would continue to encourage families to engage in what is possible for your children. I remember taking you on trips to colleges, even before we started looking at colleges. Like, when we went up to the coast and we visited Stanford and we visited, because I wanted you to see what was available to you, and we're at the high school that I work at, I also lead what's called Male Leadership Academy. And we take college trips. We take students to see colleges. And I think that's an investment that pays back dividends, because they get to see something that maybe they never seen before. It takes them out of their kind of bubble, and they get to see colleges up north. They get to see colleges in San Diego. They get to see the world a little bigger and the possibilities that are there for them. And I think that's important to really just emphasize that to students, is there is a world out there, and I want to give you the opportunity to see it, because you may be coming to one of these colleges that you never thought you could attend. But also just seeing education as something that is attainable. I remember growing up, and we didn't talk about education. It was kind of one of those things that was it was fearful. It was kind of like a fearful adventure. Like, oh, we can't go there because we can't attain that. Like, you just get a job and you provide for your family. And I want to say that it's attainable. I was able to do that. You'll be able to do that. And I want to encourage the risk. I want to encourage the risk, because it does allow more people, specifically people of color, an opportunity to sit at a table and make decisions that could affect a whole community. You know what I mean? And then it reflects the community. And I think that's important. I love when I see school boards that reflect the community. I love when I see a school staff that reflects the community that they serve. And I think that's important for the kids to see themselves and other people so that they can achieve. I know we're a big Disney family, and I want to commend Disney for showing characters that reflect the people who are buying their stuff. Like, there's a lot of culture being brought into these movies. There's a lot of stuff that if you tap into it, it's amazing what it could do. I mean, for Disney, it's revenue, but it's something. They're using the cultures that they are serving as a reflection of what they do, and I think it's amazing. And I think you need to be a student of your community so that you can understand, and give people opportunities to see more than beyond what they are used to. To see possibilities. So my hope is that you see yourself as somebody who is able and capable to reach the goals that you want to reach. And I think you being biracial, don't see that as an obstacle. See that as a benefit. See that as something beautiful. I grew up thinking speaking Spanish wasn't a good thing. I was kind of embarrassed sometimes, but now I see it as a superpower. And I tell my students that all the time. You speak Spanish? That's amazing. It's going to help you. Continue to strengthen your Spanish. Continue to speak in Spanish.
Yes.
Let's speak Spanish here. I'll speak it to you. Kind of thing, so that it continues to be something that they're proud of. And I think that's a tide that's turning. It's seen as a positive, and not so much as a negative, as I saw it growing up. I feel like I had to leave my culture to align to the American culture of education. And I don't think that was beneficial to anybody other than
Yeah.
the culture that it represented.
Yeah.
But I do see a turn. I see the tides turning, rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope it continues to go this direction.
Yeah. That was amazing.
Thank you.
I don't have like any other questions. Like I didn't want to talk because I just wanted to listen to you.
But here's what I wanted to bring up, because I know you asked Mommy this question, but
Oh, you took notes?
yes, I did.
Wow, good job.
I think because, and I think the reason why you are going to college and Reese is going to college, I think it's something that we just continue to expose you to. And I think it's just something that we talk about. It's something that we do. I mean, your parents, both Mommy and I, are in education, so you see it.
Yeah.
You go to
For sure.
you go to my school. You see it as part of our everyday.
Yeah.
And that's why we continue to talk about it. That's why we continue to encourage you with it. And I think that's a given in our home. You're going to go to college. That's just a given. Because of how much we talk about it. We talk about our jobs at home, so we communicate quite a bit. So you see what we deal with. You see, you see your mother grading papers. You see me going back to school when it's back to school. So you see these things. It's part of our just what we believe, that education, our ethos is. Our education is important. It's something that we strongly believe in. And I think that's why you guys have had such a positive experience with it. And also, as parents, we are very involved in your education.
Yeah. For sure.
We go to all the events. We talk to teachers when we see an issue. It's something that we do. And I think that's something sometimes parents are fearful of, especially especially my parents. I know they kind of saw teachers as like authority, so they didn't like balk it at all. They just went with whatever the teacher said, and then we got in trouble. We got in trouble for making the teacher's life miserable if we did, So that's why we were so on point. Like we had to act a certain way because we knew that we would get in trouble if the teacher called home saying that I didn't complete an assignment or something. But I feel like I forget what I was saying. I lost my.
It's okay.
But we're involved in everything.
Yes.
And we are a supporter of your education, and we will continue to do that because we don't see education as just the teacher's job. We see it as the parent's job as well.
Yeah.
So we will continue to kind of create that cyclical relationship with teachers in order to make sure that you succeed and that your sister succeeds. So, and I think that's important. As a teacher, I love that. I love seeing parents and teachers work together. I love it when teachers come and ask me, parents come and ask me for help and I call them for help. That's the relationship. That's the community. That's a culture that I think works and provides and produces an environment where the student knows, oh, I have the encouragement from both school and home, and they both really work together to make sure that I succeed. And I think that's important. I would love to see communities know that and feel that, especially Hispanic communities. I want them to feel like it doesn't matter if you don't speak the language, you can still be involved in your school, in your child's school. Because there's options and there's resources that will help you become effective in your child's education. Because I know I'm talking a lot.
No, it's good.
And I can talk about this all day, but there are language barriers that keep parents from becoming involved in school with their kids. And I think the more you offer resources, and I've seen it, and I think it's happening, the more you offer the resources to eliminate barriers, the more successful your kid's going to be. And that's really what we want. We want the kids to be successful. We want them to obtain. We want them to, just continue to respect and really appreciate education for what it could bring and what it can offer. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any last notes?
Let me see what else I wrote down that I wanted to talk to you about. Let's see.
You're going to be cutting that out.
Well, I think we're continually asking you guys what else could we do to support you? Like we take you to Disneyland so you can see everything. Like this stuff that's important to you guys.
Yeah.
So we invest in it. We invest in what's important to you. Your sister's still young. She's still figuring it out, but we have conversations with her about it. I have conversations with her. I know she's kind of into design. So let's talk about design.
Yeah.
There's a lot of areas of design, fashion design. There's what was it last one? There's design. There's
Like interior design.
interior design.
Yeah.
There's a lot of areas that there's graphic design. So there's a lot of areas that incorporate design, but just kind of exposing her to those things are going to help her decide and know, hey, maybe this is something that that I could do. So really, it's not aligning your child to your idea of what they should be based on what society says they should do. It's you aligning to their interests, their strengths, and seeing how you can come alongside and support them in that. I remember when you started, enjoying Legos. What did we do?
We played with more Legos.
We bought
You
Legos.
got a Lego set
I
for
got
Christmas. Because now you like Legos too.
We took you to Legoland. We did those things because we really saw that was important to you. So we opened up opportunities for you to be and to see yourself in a place that you can do that. And we continued to do that, and we continue to do that to this day until you grow up and you have kids. Continue to support you, and that make sure that you're living the dream that you have for yourself. Because not only does that benefit you, but it benefits us as parents. We get to see you be the best you, and that's a great reward. That's to see your children outdo you.
Wow.
You can outdo me, please. Please outdo me. Like, do better, than I could ever do. And I think that to me is the best affirmation that I can have.
Wow. That was like a great way to like.
Well, I think that's what my dad wanted for me. I think that's what yeah. I think that's what he wanted for us, is for us to outdo him. And for him to be able to kind of brag about it in some way, because that's what he couldn't do, we could do, and I think that's super important that we do that.
I have a question, and feel free to type it, but kind of just coming full circle, right? You being now an educator, knowing that again the K-12 system maybe didn't work for you, serving populations that were very similar to your family. Sorry for the question.
I'm good.
If you could have your dad and your mom at back to school night with young you, what advice would you give them, knowing young you, so that they could help you explore your strengths, interests, and values? Knowing again the socioeconomic situation of your parents, the language barrier, you literally have your family in your class. I'm sure you have it with so many of your students. What is a way that you would tell them this is a small way that you could help them explore their strengths, values, and interests without having, to go get a pass to Disneyland or buy $100 Lego sets, right? So what is a simple kind of thing that you could tell your parents, you could help your kid buy? What would it be?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good question. If I was the kid taking my parents to back to school, how would I help them?
Help you.
Help me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a really good question. I think looking back, if I were to look at my elementary David, I think the student, would have to advocate for my parents to feel seen, for my parents to feel accepted, for my parents to be able to walk into my classroom and not feel like they lack anything. You know what I mean? So as an advocate for them, I would have to advocate to the teacher, hey, what can you guys do to make sure that my parents know what I'm doing and how I'm doing, and allow them to feel comfortable enough to ask you a question. I'm thinking about my parents my mom did not graduate high school. She maybe had a second grade education, because she had to work and help raise her siblings. My dad was able to graduate high school. He was able to later get a bachelor's. But I would have to advocate for the teacher to understand that, sometimes parents are at different educational levels. But the dignity, I'm getting emotional now. The dignity that we would need to create for them to come and be able and free to ask questions would have to be set.
Yeah.
The bar would have to be every parent matters. Every parent matters regardless of what language they speak or what social economic level they're at. And then I would ask, what resources do they have in order to support me? Like, do they understand maybe some of the assessments? Do they understand the district tests that I'm taking? Can you explain my results to them in Spanish? Can you, can they come and volunteer without fearing anything?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can they be part of the community, the school community? Are there other parents that they can be connected with?
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's all they need is another Spanish speaking family that they can connect with in order to be able to feel safe at the school. I don't know. I think I would have to maybe become the community developer, create a club for parents who speak Spanish, or it's just one of those things where I think the more opportunities we create for parents to feel comfortable and safe and confident in being a champion of their kids' education, the better we can become as an education system, for our parents. So, yeah, if I were to reflect on that, I think that would be the case. Is just creating an environment or a school that is welcoming and that has resources for our parents in the languages that they speak.
Yeah.
For them to feel. I know my mom would have loved that. I know my dad would have loved that. He would have eaten that up. But I think sometimes there was just a fear of feeling like an outsider, like I did. So it's not just me. I think it ostracized a lot of the extended family as well sometimes. But I think we've done a lot to help that, and I think we continue to do that in California.
Yeah, amazing.
Did that answer the question?
Yes,
I did.
So, a personal story how I wish my parents weren't engaged in my education was, and another way to make them feel safe in the school that I was at to participate was something that we did at your elementary school.
Something that you made.
Well, something that I and two other moms kind of created, and it was called the International Culture Club. And it was something that we felt was necessary to represent the cultures that were at our school. So I remember us brainstorming, and I remember actually doing a assembly for you guys.
Yes.
Prior to this International Culture Club Day that we did, and it was all about Mexican heritage and Mexican culture during Hispanic Heritage Month. So I brought all the traditions, and I brought the history, how many states there are, but I wanted to make sure that there was more that the kids understood other than the fact that, tacos, burritos, Yeah. So I brought history of things and important things that, have created an impact on the world that came out of Mexico.
Yeah.
Like the color TV. And I wanted them to see that, the hot Cheetos that they ate came from somebody who is from Mexican descent. You know what I mean? Like, it was important for me to say, no, we're much more than than what you see on TV or what's portrayed on TV. And there is a lot that Mexico offers. And this is what this is why I'm celebrating this, because this is who I am. This is part of my culture, my heritage. So I wanted families to feel that at your elementary school, which is why we did this. And the other mom was African American. The other mom was from Indian descent. So we together were like, hey, we want to do this. We want to make it happen. So we did. We celebrated 5 countries, and you guys traveled to each of those countries. We had, we had the traditions, we had the food, we had things that were, important from that country that, that would that contributed to the world. So you guys traveled to all these countries in the school that you were at, and you guys got to experience culture. You got to experience other people's, culture, and we love that. And I think what's the best part, the most affirming part, is that they're still doing it. You know, even though you're not there, even though Reese is gone, they're still doing it. And I'll drive by the school every once in a while during this time period, and I'll see the banners that say hey, International Day, you know, and they rotate through countries that are represented at the school, and it's an affirmation that if you do something important, and if you do something, and if you want to do something that incorporates the culture of your students, it can happen.
Yeah.
And that creates so much buy-in from the families because they own it.
Yeah.
That's who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids feel seen, and the kids feel heard. And there was one kid I remember him saying, "Oh, he speaks Spanish like I do," and he felt seen. We still know the family. We see them, and I believe he's in college now.
Wow.
But that was the one thing that he was embarrassed to speak Spanish at school, and when he saw me speak Spanish, that went away.
Wow.
And he just felt like he was seen. So those are the things that we could do as a school. Those are the things that we could do is just really invest in our community of parents and who's represented at our schools. It's not very hard.
Yeah.
But sometimes it just takes somebody to point it out and somebody to actually do it.
Yeah.
And to make it happen. And, I think that's important, for parents. And I think that would have, if my parents would have seen that, I think it would have broken down a lot of barriers. And I would have made them feel comfortable, and I would have made them feel seen and part of the community. And but that was then, and we've learned a lot. So shame on us if we don't do better.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
As an educational system. So there it is. That's
there
all.
It is. Okay. No, that was really good. Thank you. Any last thoughts? I don't know if there are, but go ahead.
No, I think. Any last thoughts? Yes, I think. Well, if I'm giving you last thoughts, I would say be proud of who you are. Be proud of the fact that you represent two cultures. Continue to grow and learn. Continue to better yourself as an individual for the purpose of serving the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, we pride ourselves in making this much money. We pride ourselves in owning this, owning that, owning that. But for us, our hope is that you are continually learning to better the world. Because we need it. We need people who are compassionate, who are empathetic, who are caring, who understand what it cost their family for you to be here. Appreciate the food that you eat. Appreciate the hands that they had to go through to get to your plate. Those are the things that I would continue to encourage you to do, is just be mindful of the fact that there are people who will be dependent on you for the things that you offer in the career that you choose, and know that that's why you do it. So that's why I do it. I want to encourage other students of color who don't have the voice, like the college professor that spoke into me. I want to be that for them at an earlier time, so that they can kind of avoid a few pitfalls.
Yeah.
But I also want to connect with the parents too, and say, hey, it's okay that your child's going to college. It's okay that your daughter is moving away to college.
Yeah.
Because that was another thing with my family. My mom wanted to keep us all close.
Yeah.
I was the first one to move out and go to college. So I broke that kind of, stereotype in some ways. But, it's okay. These things are okay because it's going to open doors for your child to do better and to do more. So, anyways, that's it. Love
Awesome. Love you. Thank you. No, that was really good. So thank you.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
Anytime. You know where to find me.
Yeah. Awesome.